Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Take care. Awesome. So next we have a Cheryl Nees. He's a principal at the Crowdfunded Capital Advisors and a partner at the Crowd Capital Ventures. He is an expert at building successful businesses. Sherwood, are you around? Yeah, I see you there. How are you? Can you hear us?
Sorry. Yes, I can hear you. I had it on mute. So great to be here.
Sherwood is going to talk about regulation and crowdfunding rules to help restore America's small businesses. Small business, we've been talking all day today, but it's been completely hammered this time with this COVID. And the reason why we did this summit again, because we want to make sure that we want to bring something to the market out there in terms of the figure out ways how they can do and alternative financing. So Sherwood, I'll leave this all to you. Welcome and thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here with everyone in this COVID world we're living in. In the background today, you will be enjoying the screaming sounds of my children because we are quarantined at home here in Colorado. So if you do hear that, excuse me. But I'm going to jump right in and talk a little bit about the framework for how crowdfunding works in the United States, how it came to be, some of the data, because I think that helps you understand the traction that's taken place in the United States to date. Talk about the changes that both the administration and Congress are looking at for helping restore America's Main Street businesses, and then talk about the potential for the future. So I'll jump right in, and if we go to the next slide. There we go. So a little bit about me. I'm not a lobbyist, not a lawyer, an entrepreneur. I had started a company by the name of Flavor RX. We flavored medicines for children so they're more compliant. Did 3 rounds of financing, raised millions of dollars from a bunch of mothers that couldn't get their kids to take medicine and realized once they did that this was an idea that they wanted to invest in. Was told by a bunch of lawyers that you could not raise money from your typical retail American that's not rich because of laws that protect them from losing all their investments. So after we sold FlavorX, made the decision that someone needed to update these securities laws that were 80 years old. So 2 friends of mine from Silicon Valley and I went to the SEC with a framework that would leverage the principles of donation-based crowdfunding to allow startups and small businesses to raise money from their friends and families on portals that are registered with the SEC and overseen by FINRA. We did the lobbying in Congress. We testified in front of 5 Senate and House panel hearings, and we were invited to the White House, as you can see in that picture, by President Obama for the bill signing ceremony. So that was a pretty awesome day in our lives. Since then, we've written a book up there, Crowdfund Investing for Dummies. We do consulting and advisory service that spans from the World Bank to Inter-American Development Bank. We've worked in 43 countries around the world, helping governments create policy to enable securities-based crowdfunding. And most recently, we went public with a database that we built, which a lot of this presentation is going to be based on, that allows us to have a deep dive into every single offering that's taking place online. And so we've been aggregating data on all these offerings for the past 4 years, because we've just passed the 4th full year of regulation crowdfunding. And we publish this information, we write reports for the SEC, we give it to Congress, and it's available on our website as well. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, so let's just talk about the framework for regulation crowdfunding. I don't know if you guys had already covered it, but it's a little different based on every country. We've got a pretty prescriptive approach to how you can raise funds online here in the United States. I know the UK is a lot more flexible in how you do it. The way in which we got this done, quite frankly, here in the United States was getting Washington and the SEC comfortable with guardrails around who could raise money, how much you could raise, what kind of disclosures would be involved, all in a way to both protect investors and allow capital to flow. So as you heard earlier, the maximum a US corporation, so you have to be a US entity, can raise is up to 1.07 million per year. In order to to get your funds, you have to disclose a funding target. You have to at least hit that funding target. The money sits in an escrow account that has been committed to a campaign, so it's a contribution before it becomes an investment. You have to wait a period of time from closing in order to get that money, so that people have the opportunity to withdraw. I think it's about 48 hours before closing that you can withdraw your offering. The offerings all have to take place online on portals, these websites that are registered with the SEC, and like I said, overseen by FINRA, which is our regulatory body that regulates the broker-dealers in the country. And like I was saying, it's a very prescriptive approach to making sure that investors have as much information as possible to make an informed decision. So we require that there's information on the business plan, the use of proceeds, 2 years of financials. If you are successful with the regulation crowdfunding round, you have to file annual reports. You have to disclose information about your cap table, the valuation of the shares that you're offering, if it's not like a fixed income or a debt security type of offering. And all of this information is available online. And because it's online, we can collect and aggregate it and do a ton of different reporting on what's happening in the industry. I think as Cheryl was mentioning earlier, there are different tiers under which you might have to have an CPA review or audit. If you are raising under $100,000, you just need certification of the financials by the CEO. We have a material liability clause here in the United States that says if you lie about anything, you're liable for what you're lying about. So that's why we have these certifications by the CEOs in there. It's meant to keep people honest. If you're raising above 100,000 but less than 500,000, you need a CPA review. And if you're raising more than 500,000, you would need an audit unless you've never had an audit before. For the first time, you can actually raise up to $1 million without an audit and just a CPA review. But if you do have an audit, you do need to disclose the audit. We do have provisions in there that disqualify certain individuals from raising money. So if you have a reputation that precedes you and you're a bad actor, well, then you won't be able to raise money online. Any American can invest in these offerings, but they're limited based on income or net worth. Currently, it's the lower of the two. It's a threshold thing. As Cheryl had mentioned, anyone can invest up to $2,200. If your income or net worth is less than 107,000, it's 5% of that. If it's greater than 107,000, you can invest up to 10% of your income or net worth, whichever is lesser. So it's an odd equation. The goal of it being is, again, we needed to put guardrails in there so that an average American that doesn't have much income or net worth wouldn't be risking all of their savings. The good news is when we look at the data, and you'll see this on the next slide when I get to it, the average investment's about $1,000 right now. There is no cap on the number of investors in these offerings, which works in the benefit of this because the principles of crowdfunding is raising as much money from your customers, your friends, your families, and family and followers. So let's move on to the next slide. And let's dig into some of the data. So regulation crowdfunding, while it passed in the Jobs Act in 2012, did not go into effect until May 16, 2016. So since May 16, 2020 just passed, we have 4 years of full data on what's happened in the industry. And I just computed a bunch of this and published a report that talks about what's happening. Now, the key thing that I would like to get across right now is the SEC has this rulemaking requirement where they propose rules out there, and it could be for anything. But I keep very close tabs on what's happening in online finance space. And I like to read a lot of the letters from the people that are naysayers to allow the average retail investor to invest in this. And what I've realized is there's a lot of posturing without data to support what they're saying. So they can use claims of fraud or something that happened 30, 40 years ago, but they have no data to show that it's happening today. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take their arguments that were opposed to this type of online finance for all Americans and refute it with data that proves that none of what they're saying is true. And so, we hear that this is not a viable means for raising funds, not that many companies are doing it, that it's costly. And I just do all the analysis one by one, and I show that none of that's true. Since this kicked off in the 4 years, we've had about 1,500 companies in 49 states plus Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico